I walked into that courtroom with everyone expecting me to sign away my marriage. My husband wanted his mistress. My mother-in-law wanted me destroyed. But I had evidence they never knew I collected. Photos of their secret agreements, recordings of their cruel plans. When I revealed everything, 3 lives shattered in minutes. Before you judge me for what I did, hear my story. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who promised to love you, this is for you. Subscribe now because this isn't just about divorce. It's about a wife who played the long game and won. Hit that like button if you believe karma is real. Now let me show you how I brought down an empire built on lies. My name is Paisley, and 1 year ago I thought I was living a fairy tale. I was managing a small art gallery downtown when Calvin walked in during a charity exhibition. He wasn't just handsome, he was magnetic. The kind of man who made everyone in the room turn and look. But what caught me off guard was how he looked at me. Not through me, like most wealthy people did. Actually at me, like I mattered. Our romance happened so fast it made my head spin. Expensive dinners, weekend getaways, flowers delivered to the gallery every single day. Within 3 months, he proposed with a ring that probably cost more than my annual salary. I remember calling my father, crying happy tears, telling him I'd found the one. My dad was worried. He said things that move too fast usually crash hard. I should have listened. The wedding was extravagant. Too extravagant, honestly. I felt like a doll being dressed up and paraded around. But the worst part? Patricia, Calvin's mother. She smiled for the cameras, but her eyes were ice cold whenever she looked at me. During the ceremony, when the photographer asked for family photos, Patricia conveniently disappeared. When I mentioned it to Calvin later, he just kissed my forehead and said, "Don't worry about my mother. You have me." That should have been my first red flag. After the honeymoon, we moved into the family mansion. Yes, with Patricia. Calvin said it was temporary, just until we found our own place. That temporary arrangement became my prison. The first month, Patricia was subtly cruel. She'd comment on my cooking, "I suppose you did your best with your limited experience." She'd criticize my clothes, "That dress is charming for someone of your background." She'd rearrange furniture I'd placed, dismiss my opinions during family discussions, and worst of all, she instructed the household staff to ignore my requests. I'd ask for tea and they'd look right through me until Patricia nodded her approval. "Calvin?" He dismissed everything. "She's just traditional, sweetheart. Give her time." Time. As if time would make his mother stop treating me like an intruder in what was supposed to be my own home. By month 9, I noticed Calvin changing. He started taking calls in other rooms, coming home late smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. He'd be on his phone constantly, smiling at texts he'd quickly hide when I walked in. My gut told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to be that wife, the paranoid, jealous one Patricia already accused me of being. One Thursday evening, Calvin said he had a late business meeting. Something in his voice felt off. I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. I watched him pull up to an expensive restaurant downtown, and my heart sank when a woman approached his car. She was stunning. Tall, perfectly styled, wearing a silver dress that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. She kissed him. Not a friendly peck. A real kiss. And he kissed her back. Her name was Sienna. I found that out later. That night I sat in my car crying until my eyes swelled shut. But somewhere between the tears and the heartbreak, something shifted inside me. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to watch. I was going to learn. I was going to document everything. The real shock came 2 weeks later. I was following Patricia. Yes, I'd started following her too. When I saw her meet someone at a luxury hotel downtown, my breath caught when I realized who it was. Sienna. Calvin's mistress was having coffee with my mother-in-law, and they were laughing together like old friends. I managed to get close enough to hear pieces of their conversation, and what I heard made my blood run cold. "Calvin is ready," Patricia said, stirring her tea with that same cold smile I'd come to hate. "He's bored with her already. The prenup is airtight. She gets nothing." Sienna leaned in, her voice dripping with anticipation. And after the divorce? Then you can marry him properly, Patricia replied. Like we planned. I barely made it back to my car before my legs gave out. Like we planned. This wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy. Patricia had chosen Sienna for Calvin, and I was just an obstacle they needed to remove. Every cruel comment, every humiliation, every moment of isolation, it was all part of a plan to break me down until I'd leave on my own. But I wasn't leaving. Not anymore. That week, I became a different person. I started recording conversations. I documented every insult Patricia threw at me. I followed them both, took photos, kept receipts, and then I got bold. One afternoon, when Patricia left for her weekly spa appointment, I went into her private study. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone, but I searched through her desk until I found it. A folder labeled Calvin's Future. Inside was a document that made me forget how to breathe. It was a marriage agreement between Patricia and Sienna, dated 2 months before I even married Calvin. The terms were clear. Sienna would marry Calvin and become part of the family empire. Patricia's signature was right there at the bottom, next to Sienna's. They'd been planning this before I ever said, "I do." I photographed every single page. Then I kept digging. Bank statements showing monthly transfers from Patricia to Sienna, thousands of dollars, paid regularly. Patricia was literally paying this woman to seduce my husband. I found hotel receipts, text message printouts, even handwritten notes from Patricia with phrases like "Operation Remove Paisley" and "Timeline for Transition." The cruelty got worse after that. Patricia started publicly humiliating me at family dinners, accusing me of stealing jewelry I'd never touched, spreading rumors that I was mentally unstable. And then one evening, Calvin brought Sienna home for dinner as mother's friend. I served them tea while the three of them laughed and talked like I was invisible. When Patricia looked at me that night, she said something I'll never forget. "Some women are wives, Paisley. Others are just placeholders." I excused myself, went upstairs, and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Attorney Harrison, and she was known for destroying powerful men in divorce court. When I showed her everything I'd collected, her eyes lit up. But then she found something even better. She contacted the lawyer who'd handled Calvin's father's estate and discovered an original prenup, one created by Calvin's father before he died. It protected all family spouses equally. Patricia herself had been protected by this exact document when she married into the family. The beautiful irony? The same prenup that once saved Patricia would now save me. Attorney Harrison's strategy was simple: let them think they'd won, then strike in court with maximum impact. Exactly 1 year after my wedding, Calvin came home with his lawyer and threw divorce papers on the table. "This marriage was a mistake," he said, cold as ice. Patricia was watching from the doorway with that satisfied smile, and through the window I could see Sienna's car in the driveway. They'd planned this moment together, all three of them. "You have 24 hours to sign," Calvin continued, "or this gets ugly." I looked at him calmly. "I need time to think." Patricia actually laughed. "Think? You have nothing. You are nothing." I didn't respond. I just walked upstairs, called Attorney Harrison, and said 3 words: "Let's destroy them." The next 2 weeks were hell. Calvin's PR team launched a campaign painting me as a gold digger, mentally unstable and abusive toward poor Patricia. Photos of Calvin and Sienna appeared in every magazine with headlines like "Billionaire Finally Free from Toxic Marriage." My own family received threatening calls. My father begged me to just sign and move on, to save myself the public humiliation. But I told him the same thing I kept telling myself: "Not yet, Papa. Trust me." The day of the court hearing arrived. Outside the courthouse, there were photographers everywhere. Calvin showed up with a team of 5 expensive lawyers. Sienna arrived separately, wearing a designer outfit that Patricia's money definitely paid for. Then Patricia herself arrived, radiating confidence. And finally, me. I wore a simple red dress, carried 1 folder, and walked in alone. The courtroom was packed. Judge Bennett, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, presided. Calvin's lead lawyer stood up first, presenting their prenup with dramatic flair. Your Honor, Mrs. Paisley signed this agreement fully aware that she would leave the marriage with nothing. The marriage lasted only 1 year. She contributed nothing to the family assets. Mr. Calvin simply wishes to move on with his life. Judge Bennett turned to Attorney Harrison. Response? We have questions first, Your Honor, my lawyer said calmly. She started with Calvin. Mr. Calvin, is there another woman in your life? Calvin shifted uncomfortably. That's irrelevant to these proceedings. I'll rephrase. Do you know a Miss Sienna Rodriguez? Calvin hesitated just long enough for everyone to notice. She's a family friend. Just a friend? Is she in this courtroom today? Every head in the room turned. Sienna was identified in the gallery, her face flushing red. Judge Bennett's eyebrows raised slightly. Then Attorney Harrison turned to Patricia. Mrs. Patricia, how would you describe your relationship with your daughter-in-law? Patricia sat up straighter. I've been nothing but welcoming. She's been difficult. Difficult how? Ungrateful, paranoid, jealous of our family's success. I see. And Ms. Sienna Rodriguez, how do you know her? A friend of the family. For years. How many years exactly? 3, perhaps 4. Attorney Harrison smiled. So, before Paisley married your son? Patricia realized she'd walked into a trap. Yes, but that's… Judge Bennett interrupted. Let's cut to the point. Mrs. Paisley, are you ready to sign the divorce papers and end this? The entire courtroom went silent. Calvin smirked. Patricia leaned forward. Sienna held her breath. I stood up slowly. Your Honor, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, before I answer, there's something the court should see. I placed my folder on the judge's desk. Calvin's lawyer jumped up. Objection! We weren't informed of any additional evidence. I'll decide what's relevant. Judge Bennett cut him off. What is this, Mrs. Paisley? 2 documents, Your Honor. Attorney Harrison explained the first one, the original family prenup created by Calvin's father, the one that protected all spouses equally, the one Patricia herself had benefited from, the one that was never legally voided and superseded the prenup I'd signed. Judge Bennett examined it carefully. This appears legitimate and predates your marriage agreement. Calvin's lawyers were frantically flipping through papers. Patricia's face had gone completely white. Calvin looked confused. What is she talking about? Then I presented the second document. Your Honor, these are photographs of a marriage agreement between Patricia and Ms. Sienna Rodriguez dated 2 months before my wedding. I spread the photos across the table, along with bank transfers from Patricia to Sienna, text messages between them planning the affair, and audio recordings of their conversations. I nodded to Attorney Harrison, who played a recording. Patricia's voice filled the courtroom. Once she's gone, you'll marry Calvin. Everything we planned. Sienna's voice responded, what if she doesn't give up? Patricia again. Then we destroy her reputation until she has no choice. The courtroom erupted. Judge Bennett slammed her gavel. Silence! Calvin stood up, his face a mixture of shock and rage. Mother, what is this? Patricia couldn't speak. She just sat there, frozen. Sienna tried to leave, but the bailiff stopped her. Judge Bennett's voice was ice. Mr. Calvin, did you know about this agreement? Calvin looked genuinely devastated. No! Mother, but we weren't done. Attorney Harrison presented more evidence. Photos of family jewelry on Sienna, gifts from Patricia, hotel receipts for their secret meetings, witness statements from household staff about the abuse I'd endured, medical records showing my stress-induced illness from the constant psychological torture, and finally, Patricia's own handwritten notes with the header, Operation Remove Paisley. Patricia broke. I only wanted what's best for Calvin. Judge Bennett's expression was pure steel. By fraud and conspiracy? Sienna started crying. She offered me money, status. I didn't think it would go this far. I'm sorry. Calvin's voice cracked. You used me? Both of you? Patricia's composure finally shattered completely. That girl wasn't good enough for our family. I did what any mother would do. Judge Bennett leaned forward. Any mother would pay someone to seduce her son and destroy his wife? Mrs. Patricia, I've seen many things in this courtroom, but this is beyond comprehension. The verdict came swiftly. The original prenup was valid and enforceable. I was entitled to a fair settlement from the family assets. The evidence of conspiracy and fraud was being forwarded to the district attorney's office. Patricia would face investigation into her finances, and Calvin, ironically, was noted in the record as a victim of manipulation by his own mother. As I walked out of that courtroom, photographers were screaming questions. Calvin's business partners had been watching the live coverage. By evening, his company's stock had dropped 15%. Patricia was escorted out by security, her carefully constructed image in ruins. Sienna faced potential fraud charges and social exile. No wealthy family would touch her now. Calvin tried to call me that night, then the next night, then every night for 2 weeks. I never answered. 6 months have passed since that day. I used my settlement to start a foundation for women escaping toxic marriages. We help them document abuse, connect them with lawyers, provide safe housing. Every woman who walks through our doors, I see myself a year ago, scared, isolated, but not quite broken. Patricia is still fighting legal battles. Her friends abandoned her. The society that once celebrated her now whispers behind her back. She's alone in that big mansion, surrounded by money but no one who cares. Sienna's modeling career evaporated overnight. No brand wants to be associated with the mistress who conspired with the mother-in-law. Last I heard, she'd left the country. And Calvin? He sent me a public apology letter. It was published in the same magazines that called me a gold digger. He admitted to being manipulated, to being weak, to failing me. He's in therapy now, trying to understand how his own mother orchestrated the destruction of his marriage. I wrote back just one line. I forgive you, but I'll never forget. Because here's the truth. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine was frozen solid and served in a courtroom with evidence receipts. Patricia thought she could destroy me because I came from nothing. Sienna thought she could steal my life because she was beautiful and connected. Calvin thought I was too weak to fight back. They all forgot one thing. The quietest person in the room is often the smartest. While they were busy humiliating me, I was busy collecting evidence. While they were celebrating their clever plan, I was building an airtight case. While they thought I was broken, I was sharpening my sword. I didn't just win a divorce. I exposed a conspiracy. I saved a man from his own family's toxic manipulation. And I showed the world that cruelty, no matter how carefully planned, always comes back around. So if this story gave you chills, smash that subscribe button. Hit the like if you believe in standing up for yourself, no matter how powerful your opponents seem. Comment below and tell me, have you ever had to gather evidence against someone who underestimated you? I want to hear your stories. I read every single comment. And remember, never let anyone make you feel small. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Stay silent while you build your case. And when the time is right, strike with nothing but the truth. Because the truth, presented at the right moment, is the most powerful weapon you'll ever have. I'm Paisley, and this was my victory. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and never let them see you coming.